You're listening to
Sounds of Mudville Radio.
What's up, world? J-Scribe kicking it in the 415 with Versatile. Trying to let folks know what we do, how and why we do it, all day, every day. We could play this game any way you wanna play it. Here I am, J-Scribe the amazing, taking all names, welcoming challengers. Got something to say every day of the calendar. Outside the range of average opponents, lame amateurs should know they don't want it. My flow's gorgeous, tested and measured. I'm the veteran that got left in the weather. Bring whatever you got to the spot. We could rock, chop it up, you could step and get dropped. Maybe not, maybe we could just chill. Build with the pen instead of letting blood spill. What you feel? Like I said, it's your call, but I gotta kick a flow. Hurry up and don't stall. We all came to the show to get loose, and I got a million styles, it's whatever you choose. Bring the crews and the dudes and the ladies too. I'm in the mood to do my thing, I got something to say to you. Something to reciprocate, blend some relevant intelligence and integrate. Hitting the stage is my way of maintaining my sanity in a world gone crazy. We could play, we could battle, we could let it rock. It don't really matter when you rapping with the scribe. I'm an anomalous enigma, philosopher figure, writing to decipher the process we live in. Seeing it different, I perceive a rift in the fabric, allowing magic into our existence. I rap and spit telepathic transmission, stitched into rhythm to make sure you feel it. Leave you thunderstruck when I run amok, bring in the buzz everyone wanna touch. Take a taste, maybe free base. My love is a drug taking you to deep space. Where I play, keep it abstract, bring it down to earth when it's time to work the facts. Burn the herbals black and scatter the ashes. Return to my task with the words fantastic. From the Atlantic to the Pacific, I cast enchantments, rapping exquisite. Mastered my element, bending linguistics. Moving the earth with the verses I scripted. Stirring up storms with my performances. Superstar avatar, spitting fire gorgeous. Scorching your forces, smash pretenders. One of a kind like the last airbender. Tear contenders to shreds with what I said. Leaving my messages embedded in their head. I won't leave them for dead though, I make friends of foes. By the time the song ends, you already know. We could play this game any way you wanna play it. Here I am, J-Scribe the amazing. Yeah. And that's that.
Well, we're calling this the Sounds of Mudville, and Zoe and I kind of just I just called her up and asked her if it's like, hey, you want to try this radio show with me? And it was kind of a rough beginning because I was going through a lot of stuff, but it seemed like it smoothed out towards game time. It seems like.
Well, here we are. So.
Here we are. Yeah.
Is this the start of the podcast?
Yeah.
Right here?
Yeah. We're just starting. I've been recording for like the last 2 minutes. So.
Well, yeah, but I just wasn't sure if we had actually is this where we're gonna cut in at when we upload it? I
think it's gonna be a dope ass intro because it's like already so supernatural.
Yeah.
And it sounds tight. So it's gonna sound tight.
Super honest.
Super honest.
We just dropped right into it.
Yeah. Honest radio. You know what I'm saying? So I mean. How do we get to this point here? How do we get to J-Scribe's here? How do we? This is your. You known him for how long?
2 years, I guess,
a couple.
around the scene.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Yeah. I met you through Energy's events.
Okay, right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've never been to those events though. 'Cause I've always seen them, but I've been gone for a little while, so it's like I seen them from social media posts and stuff like that, but I never got a chance to actually go to them. But I understand you've been throwing shows for how long now?
Long time. Yeah, doing events for many years. I mean, even like when I was in high school, I started like throwing little open mics in Lodi and stuff like that. And Yeah, for the past about 13 years or so, I've with a couple friends from Wisconsin had a family power music, like a company. Mainly has been an events company. Always kind of supposed to be the three pillars: the artist development, events, and education. And but mainly, you know, it was an events company.
Okay.
For the better part of it, and so yeah, just
And you're still affiliated with them, right?
yeah.
And you guys do a lot of the live streams.
Yeah, we do once a month Grassroots online.
Nice.
Yeah. Grassroots was like the signature event that we all three came together on and like kind of.
Is that a podcast or what is that?
It's an open mic.
Okay. Is it? Do you guys upload shows? Is that like a live? Where can we hear that at?
I mean, there's nothing really that current. I mean, when we were first started out, we were putting stuff up on YouTube and whatnot. But I've been doing here in Stockton for better part of a year now. And but yeah, I'm not really I need someone, you know, to just come in and record.
You from
know,
Stockton
just-
originally?
No, I grew up in Lodi.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
209 area.
Yeah, for sure.
Close enough.
when did you first started like? What was like your musical influences when you were growing up? Like when you first before you became a DJ?
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. Yeah, when I was real young, when I first started like discovering music on my own, it was like 90s alternative punk, you know, No Effects, Offspring,
Heck yeah.
AFI before they went all pop, you know, like the earlier stuff. Used to go to the Warped Tour back when it was all just like that kind of music,
That's
you
dope,
know.
though. They don't have them like that no more.
No. But
They
then,
started to bring them back.
yeah,
that feeling, those moments in time, though, man. That's all for me. It was like a feeling.
it was cool.
It was-
But then, you know, they started adding other genres, which is kind of cool. I'm all about mixing up the genres. But like Warped Tour was originally like a punk festival. And then after high school, I moved to San Francisco, and that's kind of where I was kind of turned on to hip hop open mics and stuff like that, and freestyle ciphers. So I started going to those more, and like that was just kind of like. Because I'd already been writing, I'd already been a poet. You know, writing came real natural to me. So when I just like tapped into this hip hop scene that didn't exist in Lodi at that time, obviously, you know, but moved to San Francisco, and I was like, oh wow, you know, this is dope. I could be a part of this. I could create like that, and then from there it was just like all that late '90s hip hop. You know, Black Star, The Roots, Gangstar. You know, I went and saw Common at the Fillmore.
So that golden era, that was a great.
So that was really influential to me at that time, and because a lot of the rap that I would hear on the radio when I grew up in Lodi didn't really appeal to me, you know. But then when I started hearing, because I was a poet more than or at least at the time, I didn't really consider myself a rapper. But then I started hearing like that really poet, like I think Mos Def or Yasin Bey, he's like one of the most poetic, talented.
I think he's
like,
one of my favorites.
Yeah,
he's
in my top five for life, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know the Black on Both Sides album.
Yeah,
that dropped. I think that was like 99.
98, 99.
Something like that. And it was just
one of
like,
the best albums.
I was blown away. And so that just inspired me to, you know, keep involved with hip hop. And yeah.
What about graffiti?
I never really did. I mean, I draw, you know, I sketch, but I will not pose as if I've ever been brave enough to go out and put up a piece. Or
when you're throwing shows, where were you throwing them at?
Here in Stockton at the Hatch Workshop.
Oh, the Hatch. I love that spot, dude. That spot's
a cool spot.
How long has that spot been around here?
Well, there was like an incarnation before they were at that location.
That's in the hood too.
Yeah,
that's like right in central. That's why I like it. It's like all industrial and shit.
Yeah, they've been there for like 4 or 5 years.
And that's where I met you. I met you there. I don't think you remember. That's when you threw. That's where I met Zoe at, because she you know, you got down. She's throwing her gothic style like that. It was dark. That's when I met her. I was like, damn, she's dark, but it was dope.
Is that a solo or with the band?
I think
even with the band, you know, like we kind of played with that dark folk punk kind of sound.
It was dope though. I never heard nothing like that though.
Yeah. No, it's a great spot though. Hatch is awesome.
Yeah, it's
for sure.
Yeah, since this is a very Stockton-centric podcast, you know, I would recommend anyone who's in the creative scene or a maker of any kind, you know, if you don't know about Hatch, like, you really should, because it's like, it can plug you into opportunities to perform, opportunities to sell your products.
Much love to Hatch. Much love to the Hatch.
Yeah.
Sure. When did you start DJing? What year was that?
Man, I always collected vinyl. You know, so I was always.
That was going to be my question because, like, I know part of being a DJ, it's so intertwined with vinyl.
Right.
So it's like you have to have some kind of love for vinyl. I
Absolutely.
love vinyl, but I never got into DJ. You know, but I loved my vinyl, and so that's something I was wondering is like, where did that kind of stem from? Where was what was your first vinyl?
Ooh, good question.
That's a good question.
That's a real good question.
I don't know for sure, but it's gonna sound kind of funny, but I got no shame. Paul Simon, Graceland. I've owned that album on cassette. I've owned it on CD. I've owned it on vinyl.
There you go.
Like that's just an all around like great album. But some of the early hip hop albums I got were like Black Star, The Roots, Things Fall Apart, that kind of stuff. But I think the intersection for me between loving vinyl and becoming a DJ was, so when I was in San Francisco when I was like 18, 19, you know, it was kind of like a sweet spot. You know, the city hadn't all gone to shit. It was like, you could still get your artist hustle on. You could still like, you know, it was always a grind, but it wasn't like it is now where it's just like, you know, you can't even like hash out a living out there, you know, but, so it was cool. So I just worked, you know, at this head shop on Haight Street, and I was right next door to Amoeba. And back then, Amoeba had like this crazy, their used vinyl section was
off the hook.
It was
Yeah,
crazy,
heck yeah.
man. It was like more than half the store was all this used vinyl at like great prices. So you would literally, man, just dig for hours and hours. And then, you know, there was
Heck
one
yeah.
in Berkeley, and then there was Rasputin music. So I think
Rasputin.
being in the Bay Area at that time, and you go in there now and there's not nearly as much vinyl.
It's all changed a little bit.
Not as much used vinyl because I guess people are holding on to more and they're not producing as much for whatever
It's
reason.
supposed to be coming back, right?
Yeah,
The vinyl
yeah.
thing.
I don't think it ever really leave per se.
Right.
I mean, it just there's something about vinyl. It's like just see something play that you
Right.
can hold. You can actually hold it. And,
I think percentage-wise, though, like more music is just going like straight to digital. You know, like back in the day, like putting out a vinyl was kind of part of your package. You know, it's like, all right, we're gonna do the hit single,
Yeah.
press that up, then we're gonna do the cassettes, and you know, it was more of like the process. Now it's more centered around.
well, I think that's why the whole Serato thing was kind of like they took it, you know, with loving arms because it kind of keeps it digital, but with the vinyl.
Yeah, with the tactile. You
Yeah,
got your hands
yeah.
on it. Yeah.
It's still able to touch it. I think that's why everybody embraced that whole technology. I mean, it's a good feeling to actually do that still, I think.
Yeah.
But what? Anyways, you're making beats. Do you make beats too?
Not really. I've played around on GarageBand a little bit.
So
here
what,
and there.
the songs that you have songs on like YouTube and stuff.
Yeah. I've worked with a lot of different producers. Is AC gonna mess with the?
Nah, man, just keep it nice and cool in here.
All right, cool. The art is what's most important. Sorry, what was the question?
Just like you're producing.
Oh yeah, no, I worked with a bunch of different artists over the years, different beat makers. I had a friend in San Francisco. We grew up, you know, we went to high school together. Well, we were friends in Lodi. He went to Lodi High. I went to Tokay. You know, we're like crosstown rivals. But all my friends that I'm still friends with to this day we're like Lodi heads. You know, so it was just like Tokay was like more like the rich kids. It was a weird mix because like Tokay was like rich Lodi kids and like Stockton kids that got bussed in. Go to Tokay, and then I was just kind of like, you know, the poor white kid, you know, nerdy art guy. You know, it's just like, all right, but it was cool. But yeah, at the end, then we were just all, you know, I made this group of friends from Lodi High. And one of them, Kyle, he was always like a super talented guitar player. He could just like hear a song, walk into a room, and just kind of like pick it out and be like, "Oh, now I know that song." And, you know, so he went to San Francisco and he started just doing just all self-taught audio and producing and stuff.
Talented
So
individual.
yeah, so a lot of the stuff I have online, he did that. But then, you know, he started doing sound tech at Amnesia and different clubs, you know, and it was just like, that was kind of inspiring to me because it's like, you always think, at least me, I've always thought like those technical skills, you either have them or you don't, or it's like...
Well, I think part of being a DJ and just, had to have something like that.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, I never really, that was such a gradual progression for me, because I don't think I circle back to that question, like how I actually got started doing that, because I was always like, you know, had vinyl, and then eventually, you know, I bought a turntable, and then I bought another turntable, and at one point I was babysitting a pair of 1200s for a friend of mine who had to store. So once I had the equipment around, then it was like, okay, I wanted to do it enough that I learned how to do the equipment.
Right.
But like there was a time where I would like never would have thought that I would, you know, be that technical and but now it's like, yeah, you just kind of learn as you go. Or even running a show now, you know, you have to adjust levels, and you have to, you know, account for feedback and stuff. So yeah, so I just
running sound at shows can be stupid.
Oh, it's stressful. I hate doing it. I'd much rather have a professional, or at least someone dedicated doing that. Because if I got a host and run sound,
that's tough.
Yeah. So I would always been kind of just like spinning records and mixing for friends at home, and then it was in 2018 I had moved back to Lodi from the Bay, and my girlfriend at the time was working at this wine bar in Woodbridge, and you know, they wanted to do something different musically, like it was just kind of slow. So they were like, "Oh, hey, why don't you come in and do what you do?" I was like, "You want me to rap? You want me to do hip hop in Woodbridge?"
Okay, all right.
At a wine bar? I'm like, okay. So I did, and I invited a homie to come with me. This guy who I had just met, but he was really talented, but I didn't know until then that he had really poor stage presence. You know, it's different. Like, you know, if you and me were kicking it, and I'm like, "Damn, you're fucking tight," you know, come to my show, and then you know. So so luckily, what I had done was I had brought out my turntable and my mixer and some vinyl. I just like had it there as like, okay, maybe, you know, we'll do some rapping and then I'll mix some records and stuff. So basically the rap, you know, it was not going well. So I just like switched over, started DJing, and then they were like, okay, we like that. You could come back and do that. So that was like, and then so yeah, I had a regular gig there at Woodbridge Uncorked for a while, and then
that's right next to Woodbridge Crossing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Does Steve Ding still own that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the owners.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Steve was always really nice. I used to go to the open mics over at Woodbridge Crossing.
Yeah.
And he was always really nice. We did a fundraiser for Standing Rock there when that whole thing was going on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was super supportive. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of cool over there. I mean, it's not much of a hip hop scene at all, but
they got a big John Wayne wall, man.
Yeah.
Like,
but it is like a little music scene, you know, outside of Lodi, and you know, it's like kind of. I mean, remember Cactus? I don't know if you ever went there. It's Oddfellows now, but it used to be.
I remember. I never went there, but I remember.
I did do a couple hip hop shows there. They were not very well attended, but I will say we did it. You know what I mean? Like
What's the scene like down here? If you had to describe it to somebody. Describe to the audience, like, what's the scene like here in Stockton, California?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, I think it's very supportive and welcoming. I think the creative people out here really, at least in spirit, you know, they're down for each other. They're not like really, if they're not actively supporting each other, they're not like tearing each other down. You know, I've lived in places where it is sort of a crab in a barrel mentality, and it's just like, you know, people actively engage in like trying to bring other people down as, you know, they think that's building them up. So I would say Stockton is not like that. Stockton is, for being what it is too, it's known for being a hard city.
It has a bad rap.
But I mean, once you're here in it, I mean, I've found nothing but love in the community, and nothing but acceptance and support, and people are down for it.
It definitely depends on where you are and who you surround yourself with, for sure.
I think it's like an eclectic whirlpool of different
Well, that's what I would say is
attitudes and just cultures are all. It's like a big. It's called Mudville, but it's like it's just a big. I think melting pot of just different stuff, different things. I mean,
I hear that. I think generally speaking, it's like that. But I will say, you know, at least in my experience, there's not much of a hip hop scene here. You know, the music scene that seems to be the most thriving that I've seen is like the punk and hardcore.
I think that's dope.
It's definitely made a resurgence. Yeah.
I think that's dope though. I think.
It is. Yeah.
I think I love punk, and I just think it needs that though. I think hip hop was a big forefront for like in the 90s. I think around here.
Okay, see, that was before I was out here. But
don't make me feel that old, bro.
Trace humanity's past, examine ruins in the road. The goriest stories have yet to be told. Listen to poems of the immigrant, bones of the innocent, domes getting blown over oil money interest. Soldiers blowing kisses to distant lips, their bloody fingers gripping flags all tattered and ripped. Millions of little kids are facing hazardous situations while we watch the morning news and make casual conversation. Witness nations tensions and conflict, corruption and conquest. Secret agendas penned on government documents. These vicious, vindictive villains have concocted a process to control the whole populace. They got us caught up in their traps, chasing progress and cash, while they're setting off attacks all over the map. And after all of that, they have us paying more taxes to fund another war and spread a little more madness. Increase police presence puts a squeeze on your essence. Penalties and fees to bleed your attention. The politics of greed trying to bleed your descendants. People seek peace, but they feed us more weapons. It's plain to see that we're deep in this mess. We need clean energy, but they're revving up the engines, pumping the gas, but they don't know where they're headed. And we're all gonna crash if we don't change our direction. We need new evolution, educate these apish humans who replace the sacred union with hatred and pollution. Using whatever you have, do whatever it takes to make your life a little bit brighter in whatever way. Make buddies with your fellow case studies, and remember, only those with their face bloody break from the tethering ties of this life that we find intertwined too tight and twisted around our lifeline. Trying to let our light shine, but times are so dark, struggling to survive. Sometimes it's so hard, we're being pushed and pulled, manipulated, degraded, eyes covered up with wool, steadily segregated. These separated nations need to pull it together. Let's start with our neighbors to begin this endeavor, and never let the pressures of the day get too heavy, cause the change is on the way, and we got to be ready. Increase police presence, puts a squeeze on your essence. Penalties and fees to bleed your attention. The politics of greed trying to bleed your descendants. The people seek peace, but they feed us more weapons. It's plain to see that we're deep in this mess. We need clean energy, but they're revving up the engines, pumping the gas, but they don't know where they're headed. And we're all gonna crash if we don't change our direction.
Your DJ name, real quick. How did you come up with that?
Well, J-Scribe, yeah, that was sort of an evolution, because like the first album I put out, this was back when I was living in Milwaukee, and I got really involved in slam poetry, because
What is that, by the way?
So it's like competitive poetry or spoken word. So there's rules to it. So in a slam competition, each contestant, you get 3 minutes per round. There's certain rules, like you can't have props, you can't do costumes.
Oh, sure. Okay. Sounds tight, though.
If you go over your time limit, you lose points. And it's tricky because the judges are just selected out of the audience. So it could be very random, it could be very arbitrary. You're not necessarily getting judged by literary, so it makes you have to be very well-rounded as a performer. Because if you're just crazy, super lyrical, but you don't have any stage presence, you're not going to do well necessarily. I mean, it depends. But, it was just the first open mic that I went to happened to be owned by the woman who was the coach for the national slam team of Milwaukee, so it just was a natural progression to get involved with that. And so I was really, I was meeting a lot of, that was a time too where HBO was doing the Def Poetry Jam, like the poetry was hot for a minute, like that style, the urban, the street, the spoken word, like Mos Def hosted that, the Def Poetry Jam on HBO, like that stuff was dope. And I got to meet a lot of the cats that were big on that, like Talam Acey and some of the cats who were big in that scene.
They were hosting some of the shows too.
Yeah, they would come through the sets, and eventually I started hosting a set in Milwaukee and hosted some of those people. But anyway, so I was just kind of intrigued by some of the different names, and I was like, I kind of just want to use my name, but not, have it be a little mysterious. So originally I went by Joshua the Scribe. I was like, all right, Joshua the Scribe, it's like, but people just kept shortening it, or like, just like, oh, Josh the Scribe, or this or that, and then eventually, people just started just calling me Jay, and so I was like, so the next album I dropped was just as J-Scribe, the Journeyman, and so I just kind of just stuck with J-Scribe. Yeah,
it suits you, man.
Yeah.
That's a good name.
Yeah, and I thought about doing like a different name for my DJ stuff, like branding that differently.
It gets too complicated for me.
Yeah, I'm just too lazy, or not. I'm just like it's already enough for me to like branding and marketing comes to me it doesn't come naturally to me.
Less is more, I think, when it comes.
So it's like, all right, if I can just, because I'm not even doing the J-Scribe stuff to the full, so it's like, let alone trying
I've
to
got to
manage.
have a different name for every single thing. Like I'm all like,
you're multi-brands. You gotta build out the brands.
My art stuff has one brand name, and the event stuff has another one, and then the music.
How many brands do you have?
Well, there's Zoe Rose Music.
Right?
Zoe Rose for the music stuff, and then there's Mudville Rose events that I do for all of my events that I put on, and then there's Art by Zoe Rose for all of my art stuff, and even on my jewelry, I do Zodiac Charm, I think, or Zoe's Charm, or something like that on all my jewelry tags.
Wow.
I'm a Virgo, man. Everything has to have its place.
I get it. I just know how poorly I keep up with my one Instagram page. And I'm like, man, if I'm trying to manage multiple pages,
I can't. I totally hear you. It's like, it's hard enough. Like, I don't like doing it. I mean, when you have to do it all on your own, it's just man.
I can say this, and maybe it sounds like a cop out, but it's like, if I was better at that, my career would be a lot further along, because it's just like, in this day and age, it's the people who can really push on that edge that get hurt, whether they're good or not, whether they're better than me, worse than me, whatever. It's not even about like how good you are necessarily. But man, I respect people who push like that.
It's a different game now. It's like social. I remember back in the days, like when you had mixtapes, it was like your mixtape. Like, here you go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was word of mouth, and now, like with social media, it seems like it's.
Or again, in the open mic scene, when it was more organic, before people had like tracks and stuff, when it was just like, all right, we're rapping over whoever's got a hand drum or guitar player, and so it was like we're always collaborating, we were always in that space. I mean, my business partners, I met them at an open mic that I was running in Milwaukee for years. It was a weekly too. We kept that shit running for like 5 years as a weekly.
Wow.
Was that here?
It was in Milwaukee.
Oh, Milwaukee.
It was crazy, but we created like such this like nexus of people. Like a lot of those people are still big in my life right now. Like I could always go back out there and do shows and make music.
Are you doing anything like that out here?
Well, I mean, I was doing the grassroots once a month at Hatch, but no, I'm not. Like I feel like I don't know if it's me that's changed or open mics in general. Like it doesn't.
You just did that collaboration with Zeps, right? For like Rhinosaurs or something.
Yeah, that was the a summer camp program.
The summer camp.
Yeah,
okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was really cool. That was through Tullyberg Press.
Okay.
So if you don't know, Tullyberg is a small printing press here in Stockton, but they do a lot of educational work. They're a nonprofit, so they're grant funded.
Heck yeah.
So Paula Shield, the director of that, Zeps and I both worked with her, done after school programs with her and stuff, and I'm co-editor of a poetry anthology that they're going to be releasing.
Oh, rad!
That's coming out in September. Actually, that's coming out soon.
Okay.
And that's all Stockton centered too. That's poetry of place about Stockton. Like Tullyberg is all about the repping for the city for sure. So Paula talked to me and Zeps and had this grant money available and was like, I just need someone to write a program. So he kind of took charge on that and just brought in a bunch of different people, and it was basically a 4-week program, and the idea is to touch on all the different elements of hip hop, throughout the course of it. So I came in with, I copped out a little bit. I brought the controller instead of the turntable and the records. But, so I brought in the DJ controller. But I explained to them what it was. I was like, so this is essentially 2 turntables and the mixer.
You're still able to kind of bring the authenticity.
Yeah, and I showed them a picture of what it,
Yeah.
And you're dealing with kids, right?
Yeah, they were like middle school age.
Okay.
So, and some of them were already like writing rap songs.
Heck yeah, dude.
So we would do that. We'd do some graffiti. Unfortunately, we weren't able to bring in any B-boys or B-girls. So that was one element that wasn't properly represented. But
you can't get your up rock on, bro?
I mean, well, in the space too. It's like, I don't know if you've ever been in the space.
Yeah, no.
It's a little
limited.
Pop lock
limited. Yeah. I mean, I could have fun, but I couldn't I would want these kids to see what it's supposed to be.
Tease, right?
Yeah.
He's all into that.
Yeah.
Thing.
He's dope at graffiti too.
So there was a Dakota. He was a beat maker, so he brought in the little drum pad and everything, and they made beats. And then we took the beats on a flash drive, and I put them on the controller. And so I was like, "So you guys, you made that beat, and now this is how you mix that beat."
Heck
and then
on the fly,
who's gonna spit? And then we get them freestyling.
They're loving it.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Some of them were. I mean, I think they all were loving it, but it's just kids. They have varying degrees of confidence. So there's some that just like they're just not comfortable getting up on the microphone, and others are. But I mean, shoot. If I was their age and I had the chance to be in a part of a summer camp like that, I would have been stoked.
Yeah, and you never know. Like some kids, they start out like shy, and they walk in there, and you get them to kind of do the thing, and they hear how good they did,
Right.
and you never know. They may walk out of there with like this whole new brand of confidence. Like that's awesome.
That's what you hope for,
Yeah.
I feel like working with kids. I've been doing that a little more recently this past year with Tuleberg. I was doing like some after school programs too, and it's kind of one of those things. Yeah, it's definitely rewarding, but also sometimes you just like hope that you're making a difference because it's like you don't even know. Like especially like middle schoolers, like 7th and 8th graders, they're like, man, they can be a little gnarly.
Did you originally want to be like a teacher what's your? What do you feel like you?
I feel like the event stuff, education is just something I fell into that I didn't necessarily plan on. I really just wanted to be a writer and a performer. But I started throwing these events because no one was really putting on the type of events I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the open mics in Milwaukee when I was starting out, it was either like singer-songwriter or poetry or this or that, and I was like, no, man, I'm doing like an all genre. I'm having a house band that anyone can get down with. I'm gonna, because it's interesting. Milwaukee is a very segregated city, or at least it was at the time. Like it was very much like I growing up in California, even a place like Lodi. Or out here, like I'd never really experienced it before. Where it was like you literally cross in one street and it's like, wow, I'm in a different place. You know what I mean? It was like, and people didn't interact, and it was, but everyone was cool. Everywhere I showed up, it was all love. But it was like, the first, the initial group of people I met who doing the slam poetry, they had their little world, and then I went and brought my open mic over to like the college campus area. And like, those people were coming and hanging out on that side of town where they never did before. And it just became this nexus. And so for me, it was just something that I didn't necessarily always want to be the open mic host guy, but it was just, it had its momentum. It had just like such a force of its own, and people kept supporting it and coming back like weekly, and it was just like, okay, this is happening. This is like a thing.
Dope.
Yeah.
And, and that, like I said, that led into me meeting my business partners and forming that company. And
what's the name of the company again?
Family Power Music.
Family Power Music.
And to this day, I wasn't able to make it out there, but they just put on a big festival out in Wisconsin. So
it's was going on.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool to think about how just like what the open mic can really turn into and what it can be. But I don't know. I don't know if I really see that happening much anymore these days.
Do you think it's a overall, just like the new age type of thing? Or is it just a certain genre? Or do you think that's just like...
You gotta remember too, this was at a time, so this was like the early 2000s, so people were still, the digital, connecting digitally wasn't as common, so it was like, it wasn't like live streaming and stuff like that. I think a lot of people now, mainly younger people, but probably anyone, a lot of people have probably gotten comfortable like just watching live streams and things like that.
You think COVID changed that?
I think that was a big turning point, yeah. I think people realized how profitable it could be and how much people actually would enjoy. Because I'm not that type of person, you know. I would rather go out to a place in person and interact with people.
Well, it's interesting because there are events that get absolutely packed to the brim.
Yeah.
You know, I know Modesto has a pretty live scene, and so does Sacramento. There's, I'm trying to think, is it at Ralston's Goat where they were having open mic? I want to say monthly. But as far as I could tell, it was getting pretty popular. So it's like I can't really nail down like what it is that makes one area.
It sounds like it's still underground.
Packed,
it sounds like it's going back to underground style. Like that's going to be the underground, like going to the live shows. Not that's what it seems like.
Maybe. I mean, I think someone has to want to do it. You know, I think for me at the time, it just happened so organically because it was just like, as you know, a white California hippie kid coming out to a place like Milwaukee. And just showing up like, what's up? I love everyone. Let's kick it, you know? You know, I was bringing a style and flavor that they weren't used to out there. And so...
But it's easy to embrace, though.
Exactly. So no one could hate on it.
Yeah.
But it was just like, what's up with you? And, you know, and like I said, I've made friends through that I'm still friends with to this day. Like, really good friends. And, you know, some of them have gone on. Like, got a homie in Japan now. I got a homie in New York. And so it's like... So that... And that's something I really try to impress on younger artists is like, don't underestimate these connections. And that's why the open mic and the live music scene is so important. Like, I think it's amazing that you can make an album with people that you've never met in person.
Yeah.
You can send tracks back and forth. That's amazing. That's super cool.
Yeah.
But
it's hard.
For the longevity of your artistic career, it's really about meeting the people and connecting with people and like, even like, I mean, there's old heads that are still saying this today. Like Dave Grohl's, like it's still about touring. It's still about going out live and playing your music.
I think it's always gonna be about that.
Yeah, I mean,
well, getting that connection with the audience, like that energy, back and forth. Just in my experience playing shows, it adds so much more to the music that you're playing, other than, you know, playing it on a microphone or, you know, in your living room to the wall or whatever, you know, like, yeah, you can get that vision out, but to get that energy release, it's about playing live.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah. I mean, there are artists. There's examples of younger artists that have made a huge name for themselves just online. And
who do you like now? Who do you like out the new generation? Who are you feeling? It could be. It doesn't have to be hip hop per se.
I like Jid and Smino. You know, I guess they're new generation, right?
Yeah, they're new. They're new.
So I like that. I like that. Like the new South. You know, because I always remember when Outkast first came out. It was like
that's so crazy that you're saying this because like, to me, 2000 is I still consider new school. That's what they're kind of breaking it up down from 2000 to the golden era to 2000.
I mean, from like 94 to 99, there was like I got it right on the vinyl here, Aquemini, that came out in 98. That's one of the greatest albums of all time, any genre. I mean, just amazing shit. So. Yeah, I would say like 94 to like 2004 or something. You know, it was like, there is definitely that golden era of hip hop.
Wow, that's crazy.
But I mean, I try. You know, I've gotten to the point where I know I like what I like to hear, but I definitely I don't hate on any of the new stuff that I don't like. At least music wise, I do think it's important to be mindful with your platform. So when I see a lot of the younger artists just really pushing a lot of just like bullshit, you know, just like nothing healthy, nothing positive, nothing constructive. It doesn't, my opinion, doesn't matter to anyone, nor should it. But I mean, in my opinion,
I'm pretty sure it matters.
I'm not. You know, I mean, that's a misuse of your platform. If you have an influence and you're not using it to spread something positive or uplifting, you know, I think that's a misuse.
Okay,
but that's an opinion.
Top 5 MCs all time, dead or alive.
Yasin Bey, Eminem, Andre 3000.
Nice.
Rakim. I think I had to give Gift to Gab that last spot.
Ooh, nice one. I haven't heard no one said Gift to Gab in a while.
Man, if you go through his catalog.
Yeah, his catalog's hot.
I mean, when you talk about MCs, you know, like I think about just like lyricism. Like, how's that gonna sound with no beat? How does that, you know, how dynamic is the wordplay? And 5's not enough because now I'm thinking, oh man, Immortal Technique. There's so many. Black Thought.
Has hip hop lost its way?
I don't know if that's for me to say. But in my opinion, I don't think so, because I mean, if it has, it happened a long time ago.
Okay.
Because if we could say hip hop has lost its way, it's because of corporatization.
Yeah.
And that goes all the way back to the 80s and 90s. But in its true essence, when it first started out in the Bronx, it was about taking what you had and making something new from it. I mean, even think about what we're talking about. Like, now it's cool to have turntables and vinyl, but back then, think of how crazy that looked. Well, you got 2 of your grandma's turntables and some old records, and you're gonna plug in up to your auntie's apartment up there. It was just like this crazy. They just did it. They're like, we need to do something positive for the community. We need to bring the gangs together in a way to get out this aggression. Like, rapping was the last part of hip hop to be introduced. It started with the DJ and started with the
Right.
B-boys and B-girls, because they would battle with their bodies, but they wouldn't hurt each other.
You know what's crazy? I was watching this documentary that when how like punk and hip hop were kind of intertwined, because Beastie Boys came out with Cookie Puss, and they were a punk group before that, and
That's a good point.
When Beastie Boys came into the scene, I was like, because you guys, people do like the mosh pit, they'll just start running into each other and stuff like that. But that was kind of like how b-boying it was,
right?
Like, the whole thing. And I remember they were saying like, hip hop is so, because I knew Zoe was telling me she doesn't really like certain hip hop things, but I think you're more hip hop than more people than I know, Zoe. Straight up, I swear you are, like, because. Like punk and like just certain genres of music is the melting. That's how hip hop kind of was. We could kind of tip from.
I could see that, yeah.
From different things. I think that's one of the things that I like to see come back.
Yeah.
Like kind of like more like, because I listen to like Run DMC's first album,
right.
Like what's his name? Who put the
Aerosmith?
Yeah, Aerosmith, and
crossover.
they kind of took over that.
Yeah.
I want to see like
That was a rad music video.
That was.
Yeah, I want to see some. I wanted to kind of come back to that.
Yeah.
Because to that point again, so where we start pulling from others, so they can see the melting pot. Because it seems like, no offense, I like trap music. I'm not saying that I don't like it, but I'm getting it's kind of becoming one. Like
it's very mono sound.
Yeah, the trap highs, and all that kind of stuff like that.
Like I'm not familiar enough with it where if you played it, I was like, I would know the artist. But like when I hear it in someone's car or this or that or wherever you catch random music that you don't really listen to, I can't. It's not distinguishable. There's nothing that like stands out
point.
where I'm like, ooh, that caught my ear, and that's just my taste.
But there's songs like that though that you would hear and you have that feeling like, that is no matter what it was, if it could have been rock, it could have been whatever.
It got you making that fizz face.
Yeah, you're like
that what?
Fizz face.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Man, I haven't heard anything like that on the radio in a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't even, and that's when I was working on radio. That was one of the things we tried to do. Is like, man, we got to put that one out there.
Yeah.
But then once it got redundant, and that's the whole P Diddy scene. That's when I got out of it because I got tired of just like, man, I don't want to keep playing this shit.
Well, I think that goes back to what I was saying. Once it became corporatized, there was always a chance of it losing its way. But I think there'll always be the underground. I think there'll always be something in hip hop and
you think
punk
we need the corporate to have underground? It seemed like you have that way we can have it separate.
Maybe
ourselves.
that's true. I mean, what do you need something to like to push against?
Yeah, I think you need that in a way. Like you have to have that in order to have this.
Yeah, I mean, but now it's so interesting because an artist nowadays can be fully independent and successful.
Absolutely,
Absolutely. I mean, you really can be your own record label. It's so easy.
You got to just study the game.
But I mean, like Zoe was saying, she made a whole album on an iPad. So boom, there's your product.
It's always a good example of what it is, though.
There's your product. Then how are you going to distribute your product? And what singles are you dropping? And what videos are you making for those singles? I mean, I've never done this, but I know the system.
Yeah.
I have yet to implement it, but it's like, you make the product and you release, and one album with 5 tracks could be 5 different products. You could drop a single instead of like putting out one album that like gives you buzz. You can drop 5 singles and then the album. And have all your different
speaking of
supporting content.
What's new coming? What do you got coming up? What's the new thing for you?
Man, there is. Well, like I was saying, I think maybe in the pre-recording or the intro, that I do have like a lot of unreleased material in a lot of different places that I need to get back on. But with my band, Mazel Tov Cocktail, we do have a live album that we recorded at Hatch. That's just gotta. I think we just gotta decide what to do with it. Like it's made. We're not gonna like.
Is it done already?
I mean, we're not gonna really do much post production because it's just gonna be what it
It's
was.
just live,
It's just gonna be.
Those are sometimes the best, man.
I mean, because we talked about it for a while, and we're like, oh, we could redo this one, and we could do it with a crowd. So there's some crowd noise, but then also it's like we listen to it, and it's like, well, that is an album, So I think we gotta just figure out when and how we want to put that out.
Damn, I hope it comes out soon, man.
Yeah. Well, we actually, I don't know. Yeah, we're talking. See, again, this is much like the marketing. This is the side of the music that I always tend to neglect because I'm always just like, well, what are we writing next? What are we creating next? And it's like. But like we're saying, you have to be your own label. You have to be like, and that's always hard for me to like do that part of the work because you have the material.
That's the administrative side of it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, the product exists. We recorded the album. None of us have yet been like, all right, let's get on DistroKid and do it. You know what I mean? Like someone's just got to sit down and do it.
Yeah.
And my homie Elazar, who's the director at Hatch, he's our guitar player.
I met him. He's a cool kid.
Yeah, he wants to press it up on vinyl.
I wish you would.
And from a financial standpoint, it's kind of like, well, I don't know, because it costs a lot of money, and are people going to buy it, and blah, blah, blah. But then it's also like, again, here we're talking about vinyl again, and that's such an artifact. Like, how dope is that years from now to know that, that piece of music.
It's a nostalgic type of thing, too.
Yeah, so we might press it up on vinyl.
Sounds good.
That'd be rad.
Yeah. So and that's kind of something that ties back to what you were saying because our band, we are sort of a cocktail. It's called Mazel Tov Cocktail, and the easiest way to describe it is like a hip hop jam band. So they lay down funk grooves, they go punk, hardcore. And I freestyle. I mean, it's like 90% of what I do with them is freestyle. We do have some written material, but yeah, we get funky, we get groovy. We lay down some reggae grooves. And then it's easy to plug in anyone. We're sort of like an end friends model where it's like, all right, hop up. You want to sing? You want to rap? So that's been my main focus lately musically is just working with the band.
Any shows coming up?
No, not at the moment.
No. Okay. Where can people find you? Plug yourself. Give us a little plug.
J-Scribe on Instagram, just the letter J and Scribe. J-Scribe the Journeyman on SoundCloud. J-Scribe the Journeyman on YouTube. I think I had a website at one point, but I'm not gonna. No, that's.
Are you up streaming anywhere? Any of your music?
Not at the moment. No.
No. Well, we'll have to watch for it soon.
Yeah. It's I think that's one of my biggest struggles is feeling like, I want to do all that work in one shot and just like, all right, when I have time, I'm just gonna sit down and do it. But what I'm learning is you really gotta like break it off in pieces. And just do little bits when you have time. Yeah. And I think that's the big pivot because as creatives we have to find ways to like build in the work mode too. Because it's easy to just I would just sit around and write and draw and just be creative all day. But then how is that going to translate into shows, into fans, into streams? How are you connecting with people?
Got any shout outs you want to give out to?
Man. Shout out Mazel Tov Cocktail.
So who's in the band?
Elazar, my boy Kevin, who I go way back with, and Ian, who's Elbow Drop Records. He's been putting on a lot of the punk and hardcore shows over at Hatch. Man, shout out the world. It's like I was talking to her online because just did a podcast that's releasing on Sunday. And then doing this, and I think it's just really cool to like have this little capsule of your time to just get to talk to the world.
That's what's up, though.
You know what I mean? Because it's great to push your craft and to put out music and art and stuff, but this is such a different way to like connect with people.
Heck yeah! So you want to leave us with some words of wisdom?
Yeah, make space for the creativity. I would say that's more important than anything else. Is with everything else you have to do as a creative to support your life and to keep yourself afloat in this world, you have to really prioritize that space and the time for creativity. Even if you just make some time in the morning once a week and you don't even do anything good, but at least you set aside the time because it's like working out at the gym. You set aside the time and build the habit, and your art will flourish. I think. Because I was saying I'm 42 now, so a lot of my friends who used to make art, they're not still doing it to the same extent that I still am. I'm still treating this like a career and treating this. So I think that's advice that I look for and I want to share is, how do you keep that creativity alive? How do you stay inspired? And you just have to prioritize it. You really have to, even if you can just set aside a little slice of time, get your coffee, a little joint, whiskey, whatever works for you, and just sit outside and just allow it to come into you. And for me, I've had to, decide to do it instead of wait for it.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, rock out, man.
But thank you for being a part of, Sounds of Mudville. J-Scribe here.
The pilot episode, huh?
The man, the legend right here, guys. You know what I'm saying? Putting in work here in the 219 Mudville area. Appreciate you, man.
You guys, too. This is the start of a new project.
Yeah, man. Much love to Zoe. Thank you, Zoe.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, now we're going to close it out.
All right, look forward to hearing it.
I'm working hard to give y'all a little piece of my heart, shining my light bright while I'm deep in the dark. You can't see my scar, but the tissue is hard. That just means that my spirit is strong. For as long as it takes, I'm doing all that I can, traveling the states to get to know the land. It's all part of the plan to be as strong as I can. The harder I push, the longer I can stand. So I strengthen my muscle with the length that I hustle, giving thanks every day. I pray to stay humble. I'm getting what I need one way or another, living my dream between the wake and the slumber. But what's this noise cracking in the back of my brain? A rowdy contraption with a whole lot to say, telling me I should be famous, I need to get paid. I gotta battle the demons that my ego contains, and that's why I gotta keep my fire lit, elevate myself and rise to this. Head to the sky whatever time it is, cause I know I'm loving this life I live. Come on everybody, keep your fire lit, elevate each other, let's rise to this. Keep your head to the sky whatever time it is. Make some noise if you're loving this life you live. People are strange and I'm one of the strangest, but I honor my pain, so my love is the greatest. You could take it or leave it, but nothing can shake it. I'ma keep making music, born in the basement, take it to stages and put it all on display, hoping it conveys what I'm trying to say. Cause I'm inspired by something that I can't explain, but I believe in it deeply, so I'm seizing the day. And isn't it great to know you're just like me? Is your struggle like mine? It just might be. So what's the point of fronting or trying to fight me? I might have glimpsed something that you can't quite see. It's time to see the similarities and strengthen the cause. If we don't make it together, we won't make it at all. The light in your eyes is why I'm making my songs. If it wasn't for y'all, I wouldn't make them at all. And that's why I gotta keep my fire lit, elevate myself and rise to this. Head to the sky whatever time it is, cause I know I'm loving this life I live. Come on everybody, keep your fire lit, elevate yourself and rise to this. Keep your head to the sky whatever time it is. Make some noise if you're loving this life you live. Empty my face into empty pages to maintain the pace of these relentless days. I gotta keep up, keep on, head up, be strong, push on through the storms that rain on my parade. And that's why I gotta keep my fire lit, elevate myself and rise to this. Head to the sky whatever time it is, cause I know I'm loving this life I live. Come on everybody, keep your fire lit, elevate each other, let's rise to this. Head to the sky whatever time it is. Make some noise if you're loving this life you live.
You're listening to
Sounds of Mudville Radio.